Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. This is going to be a quick Survivor Series review, results, kind of rundown. Obviously, we've just come off a watch long. It's a marathon, like 4 hour watch long, so I'll keep this relatively short because I'm sure if you're over here in the UK, it's nearly like 4 a.m. in the morning. Over there in the United States, it's got to be like closing in on 11 p.m. So we'll keep this relatively short. We'll go through just the quick notes of the show. I'll give my opinions on what I thought of some of the matches, what I thought, of course, of The Undertaker. The whole show is about the final farewell of The Undertaker. It was obviously about Raw and SmackDown as well, but in reality, it was more about The Undertaker. It was all about The Undertaker tonight and his final farewell. So we'll go quickly through the results of the show, what happened tonight at Survivor Series, and just a quick run through of my opinion of it. So to kick off the show, we had obviously we had the kickoff show to kick off the show. Wouldn't you know it? The kickoff show to kick off the show. So we had the kickoff show, and what I will say actually, before we get into the results of the matches, it was Raw versus SmackDown, but it meant nothing. It was Raw versus SmackDown in the sense that nothing mattered. There was no one kept score. No one kept score that Raw beat SmackDown tonight. There was no graphics on the screen that said Raw won, SmackDown didn't win. There was no score. At any point did they go, oh, Raw are 2-0 up, or it's now 3-1. The whole point of Survivor Series is brand supremacy, and they barely mentioned it. The only thing they mentioned is that it was Raw versus SmackDown. Apart from that, they made no reference of who was winning. There was no stakes. What did you win? Nobody won anything. You didn't win anything being on this show. SmackDown, because they've lost, they haven't lost anything. Raw, because they won, what have they gained? People go, oh, bragging rights. They didn't win anything. Raw didn't win anything because of that. It's a load of rubbish. Of course they didn't win anything. They didn't win any bragging rights or anything like that. So that's just a little bit of a rant about the rules of this whole brand split thing. It's just ridiculous, to be honest. But on the kickoff show, we had an 18-man dual brand battle royal. We had superstars from Raw and superstars from SmackDown. The winner of that match was The Miz by last eliminating Dominic Mysterio. Now, during this match, it looked like Dominic Mysterio had won the match. But in reality, what happened was he threw Miz over the top rope. Miz came back under. As he was coming back under, he just managed to get in the ring. Dominic Mysterio hit a basement drop kick. Miz goes to the outside. You think The Miz has been eliminated. Later on in the match, Dominic Mysterio last eliminates. I can't remember who it would have been. I can't remember who he last eliminated. Anyway, you think Dominic Mysterio thinks he's won, and then wouldn't you know it, The Miz then eliminates Dominic Mysterio, and Dominic Mysterio is out of the ring, and Miz wins the match. I thought it was a fine battle royal. I think the problem with it, and I mentioned this on the watch long, was that they did the same spot like a million times. For the entirety of that match, they focused on the apron opposite the hard cam. I mean, a million times it was over the top rope, we'll stay on the apron for 5 minutes, and then we'll brawl it out on the apron, and eventually you'll get thrown to ringside. I did not understand that. The thing I think with a good battle royal is you've got multiple spots, but the spots are different, the spots are unique, and it just didn't feel like that at times. It felt like the same spot over and over and over again, several times at that point, and it felt very samey. I'm glad The Miz won. I think The Miz needed to win that match, quite frankly. You know, he's just won the Money in the Bank briefcase, and part of the problem, I think, when it comes to the Money in the Bank briefcase is that it's almost a curse, isn't it, at this point, that you win that briefcase and then you get booked badly, you lose, or you don't even appear on pay-per-views. I mentioned that the problem was with The Miz being in this match is that he's won the Money in the Bank briefcase and he's on the kickoff show, whereas Otis lost the Money in the Bank briefcase and he's actually on the main card and he's in a featured match. How does that work out? So I'm glad The Miz won. If he's going to eventually become WWE Champion, which I don't know if he will, to be quite honest with you, I don't know if The Miz will become WWE Champion. I think it works both ways with him. He could lose the match when he cashes in and it doesn't matter. He can also win the WWE Championship and he's a solid guy that could be champion. So I think that works for him fine. I don't see him cashing in anytime soon, but I think he was probably the right guy to win. And look, having Dominic Mysterio come close isn't a bad thing for him either. So I thought it was a fun way to kick off the show. Again, there's no stakes involved because there is no stakes in this whole brand supremacy and brand split anyway. There's no brand loyalty. How can you have any brand loyalty when you've only been on the show a couple of weeks? It doesn't make any sense there. It doesn't make any sense there. But I'm glad The Miz won the match. It made sense for me to have the Miz win that match. You know, if he's going to be on the pre-show, he's potentially a WWE champion. He needs to win matches. So I'm glad he won that match. So we kicked off the show with the traditional men's Survivor Series 5-on-5 elimination match. We had Team Raw, which was AJ Styles, Keith Lee, Sheamus, Braun Strowman, and Riddle. Defeats Team SmackDown, which was Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, King Corbin, Seth Rollins, and Otis in a clean sweep. This was 5-0. Team Raw defeated Team SmackDown in a clean sweep 5-0. Interesting eliminations in this match. I think, to be honest, maybe the most interesting elimination here was Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was the first elimination in this match. He tagged himself in and said this is for the greater good. He then got down to his knees, put his hands out, and said to Sheamus, give me your best shot or don't hold back or anything like that. Sheamus hits him with the bro kick and Seth Rollins takes the pin. Now what's interesting about that, of course, is that Seth Rollins very soon is going to be off WWE television. Becky Lynch is pregnant. She is due to give birth realistically any day now, but she's due to give birth in the next couple of weeks. We know Seth Rollins is going to be off TV. He's going to go on paternity leave. There has been rumours that he's going to be off for the remainder of the year, possibly coming back in early 2021, possibly around the Royal Rumble time. I think this is a perfect way to write Seth Rollins off TV. He doesn't need to be written off of TV by any amazing stunt or anything like that. He says it's for the greater good. Maybe he takes a bro kick and just realizes, I lost to Murphy. I was humiliated by my former disciple. Maybe I need to take some time away, and takes this bro kick and goes into, his gimmick is very, sort of religious, isn't it? It's very, calls himself a messiah. So maybe he needs to take some time away and sort of meditate on what his next step will be, and meditate on what his rebirth will be eventually when he does return to the WWE in 2021. I think that's the direction that they'll probably go with when it comes to Seth Rollins. But I was interested with this match that they were going to go with a clean sweep. I didn't see them doing a clean sweep kind of deal in this match. I really didn't see them doing that, and I was very surprised, quite frankly, that that's the direction that they decided to go in for the whole clean sweep thing. Obviously, I understand that the storyline from a Raw point of view coming into this was dysfunctional team. Can they get along? Will they get along? That kind of deal. And eventually they did get along. And AJ Styles is a great team captain because he had the ability to lead this team of misfits together, and eventually they did get on. I did feel at certain points though, I thought, Jey Uso is going to be the last man standing for SmackDown, which he was, but I thought he would win the match for SmackDown. What was interesting, as I mentioned, Jey Uso was the last man standing, but nevertheless, he still got defeated. Keith Lee pinned him with a spirit bomb to give the victory for Monday Night Raw. But after the match backstage, later on in the night, you had Roman Reigns there, and he chewed out Jey Uso, which did play into the main event. You had Jey Uso basically say that, as my team let me down as my teammates, and Roman Reigns basically said, that's not good enough. It's not good enough. The reason your teammates let you down is because you weren't strong enough, because they didn't fear you, because they didn't respect you, and essentially told Jey Uso to get out of his face and leave, and that's what Jey Uso did. But I thought, as a way to open the show, I'm a big fan of these Survivor Series elimination matches. I think they're really fun. I think if they're done properly, they can be a lot of fun. Obviously, they're always longer form matches because you've got multiple eliminations. The entrances themselves take like 15 minutes. The actual match length for this match was just under 20 minutes. It was 19:25. Add on about 15 minutes to that because of the entrances, and you've got a hell of a long match. You've got a match that's over 30 minutes. So it did go long, but I thought it was very enjoyable. Surprised that, not necessarily surprised Raw won, surprised in the way Monday Night Raw won that one. But Raw, to be honest, the rest of the night, they came out on top. And maybe they need to. Maybe they need to imply to their audience, maybe this is why Raw got the better of SmackDown for most of the matches, was because they need to imply to the audience, you need to be watching Raw. I know you don't want to. I know nobody wants to watch the 3 hours drag by on Monday nights. But we've got big stars on Raw, so you need to watch Raw. Maybe that's why they did that. I don't know. But Raw get the victory there. So the next match was the Champions versus Champions tag team match, where SmackDown's the Street Profits, the SmackDown tag team champions, defeated the New Day, the Raw tag team champions. Now, I must say, they were hyping this up like this is a dream match. This is a tag team dream match. It's something we've never seen before, and it's going to be incredible. And I wasn't super hyped going into it, and I think the reason I wasn't super hyped going into this match is because I'm just not hyped on tag team wrestling at all in WWE. I am in companies like AEW, and I'm excited to watch tag team wrestling in other companies, but just in WWE, because I know their attitude to tag team wrestling, I know the way they view tag team wrestling, that it is an afterthought, that it can't be the main event, and I know the tag team titles are worthless and don't mean anything in WWE, so maybe that's why I wasn't super hyped on this one. But I must say, I thought this tag team match was really good. I thought it was excellent. And that should come as no surprise, really. The New Day, they are 10-time tag team champions, and that is, and they're probably going to end up being a million-time tag team champions, but they are the tag team champions that many times for a reason, because they're really, really good. They're really, really good at tag team wrestling, and they're really good at telling stories through tag team wrestling. This whole match was actually centered around the ribs, the midsection of Montez Ford, and they even had an awesome spot. So the entirety of the match, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods actually were super aggressive, way more aggressive than you would be used to seeing them in a tag team match. They were super aggressive, and for the entirety of the match, they worked over Montez Ford's midsection to the point where later on in the match, Montez Ford hits the frog splash, and you think, no, that's it, he's going to win the match. But because they worked over the midsection so much, and for so long in that match, when he hit the frog splash, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for him to actually get the pinfall, and he couldn't get the pinfall because of that. I love nuanced storytelling like that. I love that kind of storytelling. I think that's so unique, and so it makes you as a viewer, you're happy that you followed the match. You feel like, oh, it was worth it. It was worth me being invested in the match because it paid off. But eventually the Street Profits get the win. They hit a blockbuster on Xavier Woods off the top of Angelo Dawkins' shoulders. And it was a surprise victory, but I think it was the right call. Absolutely was the right call. I mentioned this on the watch along. The New Day, the 10-time tag team champions, they need other tag teams in the WWE. Otherwise, you can't have matches like this. So you need to build up the up-and-coming tag team, which is the Street Profits here. It looks like the Street Profits, I would assume, aren't going to be split up anytime soon. I bet Vince McMahon's looking at a Montez Ford and going, that guy is money in the future. Nevertheless, they need to build up that tag team, and they need to establish credibility to the Street Profits. And I don't think it would have been the right call for the New Day to win here. They don't need the win. When you look at these two teams, who needs the win most? It's the Street Profits. They need to have that extra air of credibility. And the New Day, like I said, at this point, are so bulletproof when it comes to doing jobs that it doesn't matter. So I think the Street Profits absolutely was the right call to have the Street Profits win here. So up next was the champion versus champion match between Raw's United States champion Bobby Lashley, who also had the Hurt Business's MVP Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin at ringside, against SmackDown's Sami Zayn, the Intercontinental champion, and Bobby Lashley defeated Sami Zayn after locking in the Hurt Lock and winning by submission. This was a very short match, and I think it was what we'd expect. We're not going to expect Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn to be technical classic, because it was never going to be that, because you look at the characters there, they could absolutely pull it off. Sami Zayn, absolutely. You know, everyone knows the ability of Sami Zayn, everyone knows the ability of Bobby Lashley. They could have that kind of match if they wanted to, but you have to realise that the characters there don't necessitate for that match to happen. The character there is Bobby Lashley being the big strong man, and Sami Zayn, he's a heel. He is the chicken, you know what heel. He is a weasel, slimy heel who will find the way out, try and find ways to win. His whole character is about conspiracies, people are out to get him, people making wrong decisions, and that's the character he played in this match. So he tried every way out. He tried taking the turnbuckle off, he tried running away, he tried at one point, this was the most amazing part, he tried also as well, tried to get Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin to attack him, and then he tries to run away, and MVP's there standing outside of the ring. Sami Zayn goes to the outside of the ring, sticks his leg out. It's like a football player over here in the United Kingdom and diving. He sticks his leg out and says that MVP tripped him. The referee goes, no, he didn't trip you, he waves it off, and he turns around to go to Bobby Lashley. MVP then throws him into the ring, does actually get involved, and Bobby Lashley locks on the Hurt Lock for the submission victory. And then after the match, Sami Zayn is going, he's incredulous, he's saying, oh, it's a conspiracy, you saw it, he tripped me. I enjoyed it. Was it the most, like I said, the most amazing technical match? No. Of course it wasn't the most amazing technical match. It was never going to be the most amazing technical match. I think it was in keeping with Sami Zayn's character. I thought the only way Sami Zayn would win this match would be by some slimy, sneaky, cheating tactics, and that wasn't what we saw anyway there. So I think it was perfectly in keeping with the Sami Zayn character. It's what I would expect from Sami Zayn. So I didn't have a problem with that. Bobby Lashley, if he lost to Sami Zayn clean on pinfall, you'd be questioning it. It makes the most sense for me for Sami Zayn to lose. and for Bobby Lashley to win in that manner. So, if anything, even though Sami Zayn lost I wouldn't say it was super convincing either. So I think Sami Zayn was protected perfectly there. I thought that was a fine way to do that match. Next up, we had Sasha Banks defeat Asuka in... I would have said, before we had the main event, I would have said this was the match of the night. I think it's neck and neck between this Asuka-Sasha Banks match and the Roman Reigns-Drew McIntyre match. I thought this was excellent. I thought it was absolutely excellent. None of my repeating what happened will give it justice. The way that Sasha Banks defeated Asuka is she managed to do sort of a reverse up into a roll-up for the victory. It's the first time that Sasha Banks has beat Asuka clean, as far as I'm aware. Obviously, they had a million matches this year. They had a match on Raw where Sasha Banks won the Raw Women's Championship. They had the match at Extreme Rules, which was a no contest. They also had the match at SummerSlam that Asuka won. All of those matches were fine. This was by far the best match they've had. Absolutely the best match they've had. It was only 13 minutes long, but it was the most technical match on the show. It was the most psychological. It was the best. It was the best technical match on the show. It was the best wrestling on the show. The best submission wrestling on the show. Some of the reversals in this match I thought were absolutely spectacular. And there's not much more I can say about it. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was the best wrestling match on this show. If I had to go, which was the best match overall, I probably would say the main event between Reigns and McIntyre, because I thought storytelling and drama was better. But I thought technical wrestling, this was the best wrestling match on the show, was Asuka versus Sasha Banks. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I saw some comments saying, they over-relied on reversals and getting out of submissions. That's the point. They saw the other matches on the card. They saw that this was... Every other match had a different element to it. The Survivor Series matches are all drama, and they saw, like they said, the Bobby Lashley, Sami Zayn was more of a comedy match. They saw the matches on the show and said, how can we stand out? We can do a technical wrestling masterclass. And that's exactly what that was. Loved this match. And I was a bit surprised Sasha Banks got the victory, but in the grand scheme of things, it's probably the right call. I think probably the right call there. I think Asuka desperately needs opponents on Monday Night Raw going forward. Don't know if Asuka feels as big as she did at the start of this year. I don't think that's her fault. I just don't think she has any opponents to feel that big right now on Monday Night Raw. But I think Sasha Banks she's a megastar in the making. She's on The Mandalorian Season 2. She's on Disney+. She's going to be in multiple more films and TV shows now. She's a SmackDown Women's Champion. She did an unbelievable performance tonight, and it was awesome match. Really enjoyed that one. We then had the 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination match for the females. Team Raw, which was Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Lana, Lacey Evans, and Peyton Royce, defeated Team SmackDown, which is Bianca Belair, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Bayley, and Natalya. And Lana was the sole survivor in this one. This was interesting because it was interesting because I think most people felt the storyline going into this one was going to be Lana was the sole survivor. But I don't think it happened the way that people thought it would, to be honest. I think the way people thought that it was going to happen was that... I think the way people thought that it was going to happen was maybe you'd have Bayley last and then Lana gets the victory or something like that. In reality, the final people in the match were Nia Jax and Bianca Belair. And they're both brawling on the outside. Bianca Belair manages to throw Nia Jax into the crowd. But they don't get back in the ring. By the count of 10, Lana is the remaining person in the match. She gets the victory. For the entirety of the match, Lana had been, bullied, and she was told to stand on the outside and not get into the match after she tagged herself in once. It is working. I'll give it credit. I was a bit critical of it before the match, saying I didn't think the whole through the announce table deal every week was working, but I do think it is working in the sense that I was cheering her on. I felt sympathy for her, and I guess that's the point if she's a babyface. I just felt the ending of the match was very odd. I thought that the best way for her to do it would either be turning on Nia Jax or Shayna Baszler and maybe pinning someone, not she just won by proxy because she was there. That's kind of like the whole storyline is a bullying storyline, but the payoff of it is you can beat the bullies if you just stay there, but not by your talent or stand up for yourself. I don't know. It feels like the storyline isn't over there because that outcome to me doesn't make sense, but Lana got her moment, so I suppose that's the key thing there. And then the main event, of course, we had Roman Reigns, WWE SmackDown Universal Champion, defeats Drew McIntyre, Raw's WWE Champion by technical submission. This was brilliant. It was everything I think everyone thought it was going to be. Started off really slow, jockeying for position, but the crescendo it built up to, the near falls, the Roman Reigns putting McIntyre through the announce table, then spears him through the barricade, the way that he goes for a spear, and then Drew McIntyre counters into a Kimura. It was brilliant, and Roman Reigns hits a spear as well. McIntyre manages to kick out. It was the psychology in this match was spot on. The drama in this match was spot on. I can't praise it enough. I think I said the pay-per-view. I thought the pay-per-view was fantastic. I really did. What would have put it over the top and really meant something is if we had stakes. There was no stakes here. No one won anything, and there was no stakes here. That's the only thing that was missing from this that would maybe turn it from a B to an A. I thought the in-ring quality was fantastic, but again, it didn't mean anything. But this match was spectacular. I want to see this match again. I want to see this match main event WrestleMania. It's a WrestleMania-worthy match, a WrestleMania main event-worthy match. Drew McIntyre is the biggest name on Raw. Roman Reigns is the biggest name on SmackDown. It felt like that. It felt like a big money match, a big time fight feel, as they say. Obviously, as well, it wasn't a clean victory. Roman Reigns gets the victory because what happens is after kicking out of the spear, after kicking out of going through the announce table and all that stuff, what happens? Drew McIntyre finally hits the Claymore on Roman Reigns, but Reigns, after being hit with the Claymore, goes into the referee. Out comes Jey Uso to try and make amends of getting on the bad side of Roman Reigns earlier on in the night. He distracts Drew McIntyre. Roman Reigns hits Drew McIntyre with the low blow, then a super kick, and then Roman Reigns locks in the guillotine for the submission victory by technical submission. So McIntyre didn't do a clean job. I think McIntyre was protected here. I don't think a loss here really hurts Drew McIntyre or anything like that. And it's something to revisit if they want to come WrestleMania season. And I think maybe they will after tonight. If they can't get the main event that they want to when it comes to Roman Reigns, why not do Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns again? I think the thing they might have to consider, though, is maybe these are the Steve Austin and The Rock of this era. Are they going to be that big? Absolutely not. But maybe they are the Steve Austin and The Rock of this era, and what do you do with those? You keep them separate. Let Drew McIntyre carry Raw, let Roman Reigns carry SmackDown, let them do their own things. I think that's the smartest thing to do there. So maybe not have them at WrestleMania, I don't know. It was the match of the night, no, and I think it absolutely lived up to expectations without a shadow of a doubt. And finally, of course, then we had The Undertaker's final farewell. We had friends of The Undertaker come out. We had the likes of the Godwins, the Godfather, Rikishi, the Big Show, Kevin Nash, Kane, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Mick Foley. I'm probably missing some there as well. Savio Vega. They all came out to support The Undertaker, including Kane, dressed up as Kane, not as Glenn Jacobs, which I thought was fun. Then we had a promo package about The Undertaker's career. We come back to the ring and we had Vince McMahon in the ring, and Vince McMahon looked very odd. Very, very odd, I must say. I don't know if Vince McMahon's had work done. I don't know if he had his eyebrows drawn on. He looked odd. Very, very odd, I must say. He obviously sounded very emotional. He said nothing lasts forever, but The Undertaker's legacy will remain eternal. Then we had The Undertaker make his grand entrance. It was the dead man version of The Undertaker. He came out, said that he used to put everyone into the ground, but now his time has come, and now it's time for The Undertaker to rest in peace. Certainly took his time, was very emotional during it, and they had the nice moment there where they had the hologram version of Paul Bearer saying, "Oh yes," and The Undertaker posing to Paul Bearer one last time. Enjoyed that. And that was it. And then he went up to the entrance ramp and just walked away into the darkness. I'm not sure if it was as emotional as I thought it was going to be. I think maybe without a live crowd, it's maybe not going to be as emotional. It had to be the main event. It had to be the last thing we saw. No match could have followed it, in the sense that, not that it because it was amazing, but how do you follow The Undertaker's retirement? It's not fair to follow The Undertaker's retirement. I did think it was slightly odd, to be honest. I did think it was slightly odd. I was expecting something a bit more emotional. I was expecting a Ric Flair retirement, and we got like half of one, in the sense that they all came out, but we didn't see any interaction. As I mentioned on the watch long, the way I perceive it is that this is the Undertaker's final farewell. We are not going to see The Undertaker, the dead man, that character on WWE TV again. Are we going to see him work a match? I don't think so, and I hope not. This retirement does feel real. Are we going to see Mark Calloway on WWE TV again? I think we are, in the same that we see Shawn Michaels on TV again, and in the same way that we see Triple H on WWE TV, the way we see Steve Austin on WWE TV. They'll come out, he'll do a choke slam, that will be it. But he'll be Mark Calloway, he'll be the American Badass version of The Undertaker. The Dead Man, that version of The Undertaker, I think is now retired. I think that's the point, is that version of The Undertaker, like in the same way that he walked into WWE from the darkness 30 years ago, now walked away back into the darkness 30 years later. I think that was the point. Again, I did think, like, after all of the press and the interviews that he did, that it was going to be something more emotional, but it didn't feel like that. It did feel a bit odd and strange, but you know, I'm glad they didn't use it to set up a feud with The Fiend. I'm glad they didn't use it to set up a WrestleMania match or anything like that. I'm glad of that. So maybe that was the right thing. So it certainly does feel like a real retirement, but it did feel a bit odd. It did feel a bit odd. Maybe we'll get another version of it, I suppose, but we're going to see The Undertaker on TV again. It's just going to be Mark Calloway, which, if anything, I'm excited for. And I'm excited not to have The Undertaker wrestle again because he doesn't need to. And we should celebrate his legacy, and that's what it felt like. That's what it certainly felt like. So the sun has finally set on the career of the Dead Man. Of that version of The Undertaker is retired and not coming back, and it was strange. It was strange. Was it worth the hype of all of that interview? I don't know. But regardless, I suppose it doesn't really matter because it's The Undertaker. You know, it's 30 years of the Dead Man, and just that fact alone is incredible. So congratulations to him, and we'll see him again. We'll see him again, I'm sure. And after this, I'm going to go watch the rest of the next chapter of that Broken Skull Sessions that I started watching 10 minutes of. So I'm excited for that. But what were your thoughts on Survivor Series tonight? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys. If you've enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. It really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Thank you very much for watching.